It is so cool being cool. Like, the better you treat people, the better you get treated.
Well, I guess it's a good time to kick in the intro here. Welcome to another episode of More Than Tattoos. My name is Chris. This is my co-host Tim here, and we have an awesome guest. Drove all the way out from Indiana tonight. Epic tattooer, great person. World traveler, touching people all over the world, man. Not in a weird way. But we got Bryn Beer here, and he's a rock star. A rock star, man.
People of the people.
I try to be a people of the people.
Yeah.
Over a rock star, but if that gets me attention for being, kind and...
Well, I mean, in this industry, I think it does. In a lot of industries anyway, but every time I've ever just seen you, it's always like an enigma. It just feels good.
Well, buddy, that makes me feel so good right
Yeah,
now.
dude.
I'm smiling so big in my heart.
Hell yeah, man. Every show, and that, like we just said, you travel a fuck ton. So I've never personally been to a show since I've met you that I haven't seen you again.
Okay.
Which has only been a couple, but I mean, we don't go to a whole lot of shows, so,
You guys go to some great ones, though. The Cyan was where we met, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
Josh's show. I was so sad I couldn't make it this year. I can't wait to make it next year. It's already in the books. You guys, you killed it, dude. I knew who you were before I got there and was looking forward to meeting you. And then that was, really, really awesome. We were peers. You know what I mean? Everybody there was peers and, giants, though. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, that show felt big. It was cool, man.
It was.
Especially in Dayton. Like,
yeah,
that's rad.
Yeah, it was. Everyone was super cool. There were no, there weren't no Debbie Downers. Like other shows have drama.
Yeah,
there was no drama really that I knew of. But
there's been a couple people. There's been a couple shows I've been to where it's mainly been around competition time, where it's like feelings, emotions show, and I've seen people throw chairs and stand up and storm out of the room. Oh yeah, dude.
What?
Yeah.
At what? Because we did Hell City too.
Yeah.
Was it at Hell City?
No, this one was the first year I ever did Evergreen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is
someone
in
spent
Oregon.
like 3 days on a piece, put their heart into it, and was just so bummed, which I get the feeling, like I understand the emotions behind it, but to
express it that way,
right, right,
publicly in front of other people that also care a lot,
who put their heart and soul into their tattoos too.
Yeah, dude. Read the room,
right? Read the room, man. Right. I feel like people throw it down at Evergreen. Shit's no joke at Evergreen,
right,
dude.
Yeah, forever. Evergreen's been a staple.
Yeah.
And not, Josh is doing, and I'm saying Josh Wiley's doing a lot of great things that Evergreen's known for doing.
Yeah.
And we just had a conversation with him about that, actually. And he's
Josh?
like...
Yeah, because he was just 2 weeks ago, he came down here and
awesome.
We hung out and talked it up, and that was like his main role model. He loved that show so much that that's what he based a lot of his ideals off of.
I saw it, and it's I respect it.
Yeah.
If you want to be successful, and you do what successful people do, and if that's treating people with a kind of grace and appreciation, why would you not do that?
Yeah. Right.
Because you're not the first one to think of it. Do it too.
Right.
Be better, like who's better.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny because it's almost like I don't want to do it because he did it first. So it's like, what's your other option? Being an asshole?
Yeah, exactly. That's a thing. Some people have pride. Right. Some people have too much pride to follow somebody.
Yeah. Right.
Especially as artists. A lot of artists, because we're artists, right? The individuality is our identity, right? So if you're copying anybody, or it looks like you're copying anybody, it's almost like shaming yourself ego-wise, because everyone's afraid to be a sellout or get something from someone else's
repertoire,
their
mind.
Yeah, there's a lot of artists who wouldn't go to a seminar because they're too proud, to learn from somebody else, and then they don't want to be like them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and I actually love that you said that because I feel like that's a huge. I mean, when I got started in graphic arts school, that's where I had my first exposure to any actual teachings or any kind of real stuff besides just fucking pencil and paper at home, you know. But the first thing we did was study great artists, you know, and really broke down their stuff and really tried to learn from that. You know, I feel like a lot of tattooers miss that. But I remember chasing, like how I mentioned earlier, like Tanane Whitfield, Timmy B, that whole Timmy B's whole shop.
Teresa Sharp.
I would study their shit for hours, and I would try to do as close as I could to that stuff, you know. And get to a point where it's like, okay, now I've got this. Now I can kind of start to
mold it
into my own, you know. But so many people bypass that and they just want to have their own niche from the beginning. But it's like that's a huge part of it, you know. Figuring out how to duplicate or recreate, you know. And there's so much to learn there, you know.
Yeah, there's a lot of artists also that are like, if you even come close to biting me, I'm gonna shame your family. I'll dox you.
Right, man.
You better be a victim before I come at you, because that'll make it softer.
Yeah.
Man.
So what you been up to, man? I see that you're traveling a lot, and what's the next big show you got going on?
I'm doing Cleveland with Holy Trinity, tattoo tours in America. It'll be my first time tattooing in Cleveland, but I've heard it's a great show.
Which one is it?
It is Villain
Arts. Yeah, I've been at that one. That one in Cincinnati. I feel like the Villain Arts always, like they always operate with a pretty good standard.
Yeah,
you know? I feel like they usually are quality shows.
Yeah,
it's fun for the artists too because they got so many competitions and categories, and that was always our biggest goal going to Villain Art shows. Like, let's see how many like little plastic trophies we can get.
Absolutely, you know? Absolutely. And the vendors, there's like always twice the amount of vendors at those shows than others, so it's like new experiences with new products, because you'll get like, you know, they'll put samples out and I just get to try all kinds of new stuff at Villain shows. Not like I don't other shows. But
you're open to that? Like, as an artist, are you down to just like try new shit?
If it's in my line of things, like if I look at something and it's got something I know I don't like in it, I won't. But I'll know what I could use it for. You could use it probably for a healed tattoo if I think you know, I don't like using stuff with grapeseed oil or mango oil in it on a healing tattoo. Right? It just, people have a reaction redness wise. If they're going to have a reaction to it, it's from those things. So but put it on your healed tattoo and it'll make your tattoo vibrant. So
right,
you know what I'm saying?
I think he asked that way because like I never use new shit.
I use new shit.
Well, and there's
I'm a creature of habit.
And I'm such a person that's like, in my own process is like, don't fucking fix it if it's not broken. Right. But that I've learned, and a lot of times me and Chris have this conversation about like content is like, well, if you don't do different stuff, you're not even open to what could be different, right? Maybe you do something that's like, oh shit, like this is the right game changer, right? So it's just interesting to know, you know, like artist to artist, especially since you guys are not only dealing with so much permanence, you're doing tattoos, right? But you also want it to heal properly and everything to go right. So it's always, I don't want to say it's always a gamble, because tattooers, I think, are super good at like honing in on like, right, exactly what you were saying, like weighing the odds against, or the pros against the cons. Like, you know, I think they're good at doing that before they execute a tattoo, and making wise decisions based on what they know. You know what I mean? But starting out, I only feel like you either get information from other people when they're telling you, or you're just trying shit out, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you probably get to a point where you're just like, well, this fucking works. I'm not doing nothing different.
Well, that probably also helps with networking a lot and just
it does.
Exposure there.
It does. You know, I'll let a Jehovah's Witness sell me until they won't. You know what I mean? Right. But I'm not, you know, if your energy and your intention of putting this in front of me because you believe in it, well, I'm going to give you the time if I got it. So, it is a lot of networking. I don't use Sanoderm, but I know a lot of people corporately that, or you know what I mean, in the sales department, in the marketing department, that go to shows, like that we know each other by name. I look forward to seeing them. And I know that I have a relationship with Sanoderm without having a professional relationship with Sanoderm, and that's that was a very good point. Which is beneficial because you can put them onto somebody who would be a good fit for them, or you know what I mean, and you can help. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Dude, Sanoderm's huge. They were
the first too.
I use them as an example a lot. It's like the cookie Oreo. They just own it. Like it could be the same cookie, but like if it's a different brand, I'm calling that motherfucker an Oreo.
Right? Let me get an Oreo. Let me get an Oreo.
I don't use Sanoderm either, but I still call it Sanoderm.
It's just
what it is. Yeah. Which one do you use? Recovery? Derm Shield?
Dermer, yeah. Dermer from Electrum.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when I got put onto it at Hell City last year.
Nice.
Or maybe it was the year before, but I've just used it since.
Cool.
You know, it's a little bit. I feel like with the Sanoderm, it's real thick, but the Dermer, it's thin, and it almost like lets it dry out underneath.
Yeah.
In a sense, it's kind of weird feeling. Some clients kind of get nervous by it because it does get kind of dry. Mm-hmm. But I feel like versus just like having that like wet caked up. So I don't know. It worked. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep rocking it.
Dope.
But I've tried the recovery. I haven't tried the Derm Shield.
Uberderm.
Never tried that. I've never done any of the spray-on bandages either. Which Inkies, we get a bottle every time we order Bishop needles.
I've tried it. I would say it's cool. It's better than putting Derm on and taking it off the next day at a show, if that makes sense.
Gotcha.
Like, to have a barrier, but not a good one. Like, clean. Like,
is this with intentions of going back into it to tattoo?
The next day, yeah.
So you just
right, so you're not like
off?
pulling a whole fucking thing off.
That pulls off a lot of really irritated, just chilled out skin anyway. Yeah.
Because the shit with plastic is like, whether it's like recovery or the Electrum shit or Sanoderm, I feel like it is more abrasive because it's got that plastic sheeting.
Yeah.
Initially, because it's just so stiff. Yeah. Even if like the Electrum shit's not, and that like spray on stuff is like, the way it's even being applied is loose, so it's able to break apart a lot easier if you're in the middle of a show.
Yeah.
I've always just used saran wrap in between sessions.
And soaker pads or just
saran wrap? Just saran wrap. I let them sleep in it, have them change it the next morning and reapply it, But I've never loved it. It just it works better than, like you said, putting on that Sanoderm.
You do a lot of black and gray.
Yeah, and I've moved into just doing single full like marathon days instead of back-to-back days.
Yeah.
I've been pushing that a lot, so I haven't really done the wrapping overnight a whole lot anymore. But
right.
Yeah, with collar, I feel like it's a little bit different animal for sure.
You need something to soak that up. Dude. Like tattoo armor.
Yeah,
tattoo armor is really good. That and saran wrap, or soaker pads and saran wrap, or.
I always keep like a stock of that tattoo armor at the shop just in case, But.
Yeah, I like that stuff.
Yeah,
for being an absorbent. It never sticks. Like I never have a problem with it, coming off tough or anything.
Yeah. Reminds me of my childhood. To get like a bug bite on your foot or something, your sock gets stuck to it, just rip it off.
Man. And that's always what my thoughts been, because I've like not done any kind of healing myself with that stuff yet. But when I think about it, and I think that the only thing that like pushes me from this thought is you tell me it's like kind of like the meat pads that are under like steaks and shit. It's like kind of what it is.
Picturing it like that is just a turn.
Yeah, it's because like when I peel, well, it's like it makes me feel better honestly, because when I peel a steak up, it's never like stuck and it's like it's always like wet and you can move it around. So I imagine that's what it's like under those things when you're taking it off,
and it's like, hella gross. Like,
I mean, but it's like probably no much worse than just taking derm off, where you're like peeling the bottom, like my arm, like peeling the bottom off, and it's just all running down my hand now, and it smells. Dude, can we talk about this? Can we talk? This is something I didn't even anticipate. We don't have to, but bro, tattooing has a smell to it.
All kinds of tattooing has a smell to it.
Oh,
blood, bodies. Pigments. You guys ever smell some pigments that are funny?
I mean, not that I can like really recall, but I was tattooing Tim one day and he was like, "Man, I was tattooing you, right?"
Yes,
like,
because
this stinks,
dude, and it's because I've never noticed it before, because a lot of my tattoos up until this were like fucking traditional line work kind of shit. So there wasn't a whole lot of trauma going on. You know what I mean? But we started doing this, got the first session down, didn't notice it. When we went back to do this, I just could smell like it was like bacon grease, almost like this rotting bacon grease kind of smell. And dude, obviously with the blackouts, you bleed a lot.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot of coverage and shit. So I was like, dude, I noticed that. I didn't say anything. And then we went back and did like another session, and I swear I could fucking smell. I was like, no, I smell that shit this time. Like it smells like rotting bacon grease. And it was the same thing on my leg. So I was like, maybe it's just me. Do I need to lay off the cheeseburgers or something? Like, am I consuming too much bacon?
Well, I think we go through a lot of hormonal shit, chemical releases, but also like that plasma that comes out in a really high quantity. I think it's got some like tacky oils in it. You know what I'm saying? Like
to kind of help clot, because it's like what comes out right before the blood, and the intention is to help clot or stop the bleeding.
Like a coagulant.
Yeah, and I think it kind of has a yuck smell to me. You know, blood. I can smell blood in tattoos way too often. I tattoo closer than I should just to make sure I get it.
I feel like everyone does. You're like
crooked spines and straight lines,
all the way up in that bitch.
Yeah. Yeah, I get misted. You know what I'm saying? Not really, but
right. I love it when I see those people with the face guards on, dude. Like I said, I'm not a tattooer. Anyone who's probably watching this knows it by now, but like y'all are taking it super serious, but at the same time it's like I don't fucking know. Like, do you guys feel misted ever? You ever once felt misted? Because like 2 weeks ago I was painting that door, like where my office is and shit, and Taya's booth is like pretty good distance from it. It's like 5 feet away from it. And there was like a little bit of ink on the door, like a spray, and I started painting over it, and it was like becoming wet again. I was like, oh shit. I'm like painting someone's bio into this door right now.
hepatitis.
So I feel like the spray thing is real.
Yeah. I've never really worried too much about it, because like I think back to my apprentice days when I'm scrubbing steel tubes in the kitchen with just an open container of Meticide, soaking like 40 tubes in it, and I have no gear, nothing, and I'm just like it's just spraying everywhere. Yeah. You know, I feel like something was gonna happen that would have been the time.
Right.
Man, I got some horror stories from my apprenticeship.
Let's hear one.
I think the worst one was the first time we went to go exchange out needle boxes, like the boxes on the wall.
Sharps
so
containers.
The guy I was working, he was like, we need to take these and put them in a 5-gallon bucket, and then put a lid on it, wrap it up, and that's how the trash people take it. Well, he pops the lid off, has his bucket ready, bare hand, and he's just grabbing needles out of the fucking and transferring them to the bucket. I was like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, I know I'm young, but I'm not stupid here. You know? But that's probably the worst. That's probably the most dangerous one. You know, the most dangerous story. But
that's wild.
Yeah. The guy, he actually is banned from Villain Arts because someone took a photo of him tattooing without a glove on. I don't know how long he was like, it was only for a couple seconds. Like, bro, you didn't have a glove on and you're tattooing. Like,
it don't matter if it's a second or not.
Yeah.
Could be anything. You know, and I went, before we had you on the show, of course we do this with our guests, we kind of do like some lightweight research. And I watched a video talking about how you started tattooing. And I think that's a pretty interesting story too, because of like, just like I said, you're an enigma when I meet you. You know what I mean? It's like a good fucking time. And you never, this story happens a lot, I think. Maybe not exactly to what you had, but there's so many tattooers that are just such good souls in the world that came from such a place that's interesting, you know? So if you feel open to that, I would love to hear your story on the show.
Yeah, for sure. Totally. So, if we're going to be like nuts to butts, I used to do like synthetic marijuana. Back in the day, it's called Spice.
Yeah, it's like
that old
K2.
Spice, baby. K2.
No, dude, I got some
Mr.
experiences
Smiley.
with that for sure.
You know what I'm saying? And I went to go buy, it had just got illegal in like a couple counties, but this dude would go buy it in bulk from a strip club, and he would sell it out of his garage. So I went there, and he had a buddy who was getting his neck blasted in the garage by a tattoo artist that wasn't a real tattoo, he was just a guy, you know. And I saw it. It was terrible. Like the really worst kind of script you've ever seen. You know what I mean? Like when you see really, 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 not even jail good. Yeah. Like not even jail bad. Like
some people in jail are good. Like
exactly, but like really bad. And I was like, "Hey, dude, you gotta have him stop."
You tell him to quit.
You gotta have him stop.
He got all. The artist was like, "What the fuck?" He's like, "This ain't easy." I was like, "I don't know, man. It's just not good." Really, have him stop. He's like, "I'm gonna beat your ass." I was like, "I just came to buy some drugs." And I look over at the guy that I was getting them from. Not gonna say any names. But look over at the guy I was getting them from. He's like, dude, you could have just left. You didn't have to say nothing.
You could have just left.
And in some coercion, whatever, in conversation, I don't really remember how it was said, but it was like, I will attempt to tattoo to like, so you feel better that I know how hard it is, if that makes any sense. And on top of the boombox was a CD of the Black Eyed Peas Where's the Love album with a question mark. Trace that shit on some tracing paper, put it on the back of a dude's calf. I know him still. His name's Austin. If you're watching this, this was a coil machine that was probably on Amazon. Looked like a dragon. No rubber bands. And it was some sort of, and it was like a round shader and a small mag in two different ones that I had. Neither of them had any, like, you know, one might have had a blown capacitor because it was like running different. It had a knock to it, but I didn't know anything really about contact screws or nothing. And I do this tattoo on the back of bro's calf, and it's terrible, but it's definitely not that terrible as this dude. So I kind of, you know, made peace with having a shared experience with this other guy who felt very offended that I was like, it's not good because it is so hard with what he had, you know? So, and then like 4 months later, I'm on Amazon with the guy I was buying drugs from because we were talking about tattoos, because I was getting tattooed out of home by a homie for like some jackets that I had.
Fuck yeah,
that
dude.
He wanted to use for riding. And I traded into like a cherry bomb glass pack for a Civic, like a car. It was like a $90 part at AutoZone. You know, for like my tribal on my chest. Like for shit like that I still have and will probably have for the rest of my life. And I buy, you know, with his advice, we buy a tattoo kit on Amazon for $60. It's 2 machines, 4 metal tubes, all the tips you could ever want. You know, 50 pack of needles, and not tattoo ink, but it said tattoo ink. You know, ink caps, rubber bands, O-rings.
Sounds like a good deal.
Yeah, and I watched YouTube religiously. I still have a playlist that I used. Johnny Galt, I don't know if you ever heard of him.
Mm-mm.
And, you know, I was overshooting. I was watching Nico Hurtado and Bob Tyrell seminars. No idea what they were talking about. You know, I wasn't an artist in school at all. But, you know, I think from drugs, it kind of gave me an interest. And, you know, I was a simpler person. Or I had, not simpler, but I internalized because of drugs, right? And that's not good. And thank God before I got, you know, far along with tattooing, I had quit, you know, because it was going to ruin my family. And, but yeah, so I got, started tattooing. My lady's brother at the time, we'd go to the gas station bodega and get tattoo ink magazines and take a photo of it, download it to the laptop, lay the laptop down, trace that motherfucker. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And stick it on. He'd be like, give it a wing. I'm like, okay. You better keep that magazine dry.
Right.
And I learned to tattoo by failing at replicating amazing tattoos.
Yeah.
Most of my upcoming. So when I started, getting close, I was getting close to good shit, kind of. You know what I mean? It wasn't what Joe Blow down the road could do. It was the stuff that was always in the magazines, which I think honestly helped me. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, you were looking up to these people, right? Yeah. Well, I was failing, rightfully. I was, I was a dude out of home, but I was always aiming for that because that's what you should aim for, is the best you can see, not like the best you can do. Yeah. So, right. And I got good enough I was kind of fucking with the local economy of tattoos, because I was doing like $25 a word script. And after a year and a half of fucking up, you don't fuck up so much and you get better and you get consistent. I was doing it all the time, and I got threatened they were going to break my hands. I had the health department called on me all the time, but they couldn't do anything because in the county it was illegal. It wasn't regulated. So they come out and be like, well, we got to report you're doing this. We can't do anything. But, people keep having a problem. So, okay. So I tried getting in shops and, it was like, no, you started tattooing out of home. We can't have you. And this dude who got out of an apprenticeship, starting his own studio, was like, I would love to have you, because I was tattooing better than him, right? So he didn't care that I came out of a shop. He just wanted me, not an artist earning income. So I had my first, and I kind of got like tattoo ethics as far as like hygiene, BBP, any of that all came from him. You know what I'm saying? That is kind of any sort of standard. And the rest is history. It just put me in a place where I could get the respect, to get the clientele, to keep pushing myself and getting better, and building relationships with people. That was a big thing for me with tattooing and art kind of combining, is I was really intimately building relationships with everybody I was coming into contact with, and it really filled me up. As far as like, some people are introverts, some people are extroverts, some people are, I like sharing experiences with people, and there's very few things as intimate to me as a tattoo. You know what I'm saying? So that also, I think, helped me get better and want to get better, is because I cared for them as well. Yeah. They weren't just money. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? They were a relationship I had that I really wanted to give. I wanted to give them something special. So,
and I relate a lot to that, because I feel like I was always exceptional at that at the beginning, but I can really kind of trace back to where that kind of came from. For you, I mean, I think that when we're born, we're a clean slate and everything's kind of learned. Mm-hmm. To a degree. I don't mean whatever, but do you think there was a time in your life where that kind of characteristic was built or chiseled by certain experiences, or
which one?
Just building relationships, people, just being good at that.
Yeah, I'll say I was made fun of a lot in school. I was the one of two brown kids. Not like that's a problem, because adversity breeds necessity. Mm. So I'm adaptable, right? Oh, yeah. I can get along with everybody. But I got picked on a lot, and I got called gay all the time. So, because a lot of guys made fun of me, so I didn't have a lot of guy friends. The guy friends I did have weren't popular dudes, because it wouldn't have been cool, And so I do value making people appreciate who I am and what I can give. And that's probably something I should work on, but it comes out in tattooing, and good for it, because that's what I do. I get to heal and treat others from it.
Yeah, dude, and that's amazing, because like I can relate to that. Even this hat I'm wearing on, dude. Like you wouldn't have caught me fucking dead in the middle of middle school with the hat on like this, because it was like nerd shit, or like dude, the fucking gay thing was like, I think around that age was a big thing.
And it was a different time,
dude, and it does, and it was all through middle school, it was all through high school and stuff. And after I got out, honestly, I kind of forgot what it was like to do that. I feel like it just got kind of cold. I got tired of it, fed up, and I didn't feed back into that ever until me and Chris started working together. And that's for me where I have kind of remembered, like, oh, give a fuck about people. Like, oh, you care about people because, like, you like being cared about.
I do.
You know what I mean? Right. And I think that's super commendable because I now, having talked to you, can recognize that I feel like I forgot that. You know, I forgot what it was like to be picked on kind of thing because I didn't want to think about it. You know?
You almost just tried to block it out or shut it off.
Yes, but I was left
away.
with this residual, like, it's almost like kind of in a way what crafted my inadvertentness. You know, like I'm super introverted. I mean, I feel like we have a lot of good conversations about that on the show, but I've found ways to craft that and work around it. But I feel like where it had maybe initially came from was from that, you know, being picked on a lot. You know, I'm not the popular kid. No one's going to be friends with me because it's not popular to be cool with me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Having moved on from that, I was stuck with this, like, just residual coldness. But it's super commendable that in your career now, doing so many awesome things and, dude, some fucking epic tattoos for people, you know, that you're carrying that in and you haven't forgotten that, you know what I mean? And much more than that, you haven't allowed yourself to become cold from it.
Yeah, you really built yourself on top of it.
Yes.
Really.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why, like, adversity breeds necessity. Like, you can't let nothing hold you back. And in fact, like, you know, I'm not fully comfortable all the time, but when I see somebody that's on the fringe, they're the first person I go to and kind of wrap up. You know what I'm saying? Because I know how uncomfortable and scary and sad life can fucking be. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And it's real cool to have somebody who wants you to be there, either with them or just, you know, in the moment. Like, oh, dude, cool seeing you here. I don't know you, but I like that shirt. Something simple. Yeah. Acknowledging, you know, that goes a long way. I'm a serial complimenter. So, yeah, I think it's important for me, based on what I've been through, to keep healing by healing, you know, as a practice. Yeah. And
I can speak to that because I feel like maybe even just like where we're at right now, you know, you being in the studio came from a place of like you were saying, you knew who Chris was before Cyan, and you were just excited to meet us and stuff. And to be honest with you, I feel like me and Chris this last 5 years, dude, we're just like so like that train's on fucking 120, you know, just like blazing through shit. So like, while relationships and stuff have been a major part of our practices, it's been more of like the client stuff, and we haven't got out into the industry, which is what we're doing with this podcast, and it's been so cool. But when we met you initially, it was you were just so open and like fucking excited. It's so hard to like randomly just, you're walking through a convention and one random person's like, hey man, you look fucking great, you're doing awesome stuff, and I'm so fucking stoked that you're here right now. Like a random person, geez, I don't fucking know you, and that's what you did. Well, you know, and I feel like it would make me feel silly if I thought there was something incredibly special about me just standing there that made you do that. So I feel like you just do that to everyone. You feel like you just do that.
Look at us right now, though. Yeah. You remember that.
Yeah. Seed planted.
Yeah, you know? Dude. Like, just, yeah. Yeah.
It's just good shit, man. You know, and like...
We've talked about that before. You know, it's just, you never know when that one sentence, someone's going to want to get tattooed, they're going to see you out and about, or... You know, like that shit, people don't remember who you are, what your name is, but they'll remember how you made them feel, you know? And 5 years down the line, if you run into that person or they want tattooed, and they're like, oh shit, there's that dude, you know, like that's him. Like that's who I'm about, you know? So it's just like that one little compliment, seed planted, smile was made, you know? No extra expectations from that interaction. It was just trying to make it a good one, you know? And then I think that at some point, you're rewarded in a sense, or you know, it just comes back around, you know. But
well, I mean, good feelings just only really perpetuate good feelings, right? You know, so if you're just really focused on like the micro interactions, you're like, I'm just gonna make this good, you know. you really gonna end up, you can only end up with a good outcome, right? Whether it's like, I think a lot of people do things with a certain intent, like, dude, this is gonna get a lot of money in my pocket, or like this is gonna get a lot of like hard opportunities in my lap for me later on. But that's for me when those microtransactions become heavy and like the intent becomes heavy, because now I'm like really trying to like make sure I'm doing this right in this micro situation so that later on it pays off for me, versus fuck that weight.
True. And the
Fuck
weight
that.
comes from like your intention to get something, or it be transactional.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When you just give, it is the freest thing in the world.
Yeah.
And dude, and I just watched something recently about, and this kind of like a side tangent. It was talking about like mega corporations and like Japan doing work with Russia and Russia doing work with U.S. and all these big corporations working with the U.S. And they said the United States is very transactional. It has to be, it's contractional. Like if it's not in the contract or like nailed in super tight, it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. And that's how working with the U.S. is. But like kind of what you're saying is like in that video they were talking about, like when you work with a Japanese businessman, you're gonna know his kids' names by the end of this like 2 years of a contract. It's not really a contract because they don't care. Like, we're not doing business with you unless it's lifelong. So fuck the contract shit. Mm-hmm. Fuck the transaction. Are you going to give a shit about me in 2 years, or are you only out here to get your pockets full kind of thing? And I feel like you see a lot of this happening in tattooers more and more. Like, they're starting to lock into that relationship is the thing. You know what I mean? And we've talked with a couple of people that have said, like what you were just saying earlier, Gypsy, is like, you know, I used to fucking be hitting the bars, you know, word of mouth was the thing. So living that non-transactional lifestyle with tattoos was where I think a lot of it came from. But now it's a lot of areas of business are like misconstrued. I think social media does a lot of that. But, you know, what stuff do you ever take intent to think about this stuff? You're like, are you driving that nail further for you, or do you just feel like, man, I'm a relationship person?
I am. Thank God I got a lot of people in my corner that I'll say, quote unquote, care about my well-being or status differently than I do. You know, third party perspective is always great. So, yeah, sometimes like, you know, we'll just say the TBM thing, right? I didn't do it, even though I had a relationship with a lot of people in it, right? I didn't do the program because of advice from somebody else that, hey, I feel like because who you are and where you're at already, that this transaction doesn't make sense for you to do, okay? With the way I think, feel, behave normally, the path I'm already on, it just didn't make sense, even though I really wanted to invest in myself with something that was almost like a reassurance, right? It was like self-checking, being around other people that I'm already around kind of thing. But I didn't do it. And that's an example of I don't think about that for myself, no. But I'm blessed to have relationships with a lot of people who care about me that do offer advice, kind of putting things in a perspective like, hey, Bryn, maybe if you do this, this is going to happen, because their intentions are clearly different, okay? Even though my intention is, if I'm called, I give. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Who shall I send? Send me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Fury.
Do you feel like there's any cons to that way of being?
Absolutely. You don't have very much until you do, and then you're always given your time and intention, and other people feel slighted, like I said, for what kind of decisions I would or wouldn't make because of their expectations or what they want from me. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You know, and I know I try and look at everybody like, why would you try and take advantage of me? So it's hard. It is hard. It's hard for me to go there because I don't want to be hurt. So I'm
sure,
like, they didn't take from me. I gave it. They didn't steal from me. I gave it to them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'll frame it like that until I can't.
Yeah.
You know, so Yeah, I do get kept out of poor decisions. But not because of me, but by my choices that I get to make because of other people's educational stakes.
Well, and I think that's one of the greatest benefits of having such a generous heart. You know what I mean? There's talk to any business person that's on that like top 5% of the world, and they're going to tell you that there is always a sacrifice. You know what I mean? To anything, whether it's like a transaction you're making or a way of being, there's always like give and take to it, right? But I think that it's amazing and beautiful that you've created almost like an ecosystem that I can live out my generous heart, and I know that the people around me are going to protect that. While I am being the warrior and I'm going out, you know, I'm taking what I have to the people. I'm still safe. I'm taken care of. You know what I mean? I can take those risks.
I really like that you saw that, framed it like that, because that makes me feel a lot kind of understood, but with more grace than I would have thought about it for myself. That was very, yes.
Well, and I think it's hard, and I try to do this for myself, but it's really, really fucking hard to almost be like a poet to yourself. You know what I mean? To create this like poem like of yourself. In school, I don't think there's a single person that doesn't know what the Odyssey is. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But why can't each man and woman on this planet have their own version of that? You know, to paint a beautiful picture of what they're doing and to live by that, because no one else gets to dictate what my story is. You know what I mean? But even, I'm going to take it a little deep here because it's just a good conversation. But I mean, Jesus didn't name himself as the Son of Christ. You know what I mean?
That's a fact.
But his people did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what kind of protected him through like the workings that Jesus did, quote unquote. And not to go into a religious place because that could fucking go whatever. But
just you said Odyssey first, so it's not more religiously transactional than
it's more of like exactly. It's more of a perspective, and we're talking about just some sort of writings. You know what I mean? Things that I've found in history. I can't dictate whether or not it's real or not. Same as the Odyssey. There might have been fucking cyclopses and shit, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
But the principles are there, and like I think morals are passed down through stories like this. So when we live in a day and age where social media is a thing and everyone's got their own fucking Odyssey, right? You know what I mean? Everybody doesn't invalidate it at all. You know what I mean? Like each of the stories are still incredibly impactful, and I think in a way, it's unraveled to me that I also have a circle like you. You know what I mean? Albeit I don't think about it that way all the time because, like I said, it's super hard to speak on one's self. You know, like I'm going to project my own version of the Odyssey for myself. No, it's the people around you that are going to write that story for you.
It's people that sing the songs of Tim in your stead.
Right.
You know, but that's by the relationship that you built and the character that you've shown, you know? So... life's all about choices. Let's make good ones
right, man.
Together kind of thing.
And like you said, there's never a time where you can not make a new choice. You know what I mean?
There's a season for everything.
Right.
Yeah. Circling back just a little bit, just on the topic of giving, and I asked if there were some cons to it. I know there's one major trap that I see all the time. People fall into it all the time when being a giver is constantly giving, but not feeling like you're getting anything back in return, which my advice would be, well, relieve the expectations, but that's a huge trap. And I think if you fall into that trap, now you become cold and cut the giving off. Do you ever experience that feeling?
No, not really. Yeah. Thank God. You know, like I said, you gotta fight me tooth and nail to not rationalize how you're not taking advantage of me. I'm giving to you.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm not a victim to anybody. Yeah. Including myself by choice. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna hurt me to help you. But I'm not gonna let you hurt me either. And I'm still gonna give you everything. I got a lot to give.
Yeah.
You know, but I know what you're saying, like relationship-wise. Are there people that I don't give to anymore because of this nature of our relationship? Absolutely. But does that mean that I don't see them and I ever being in a place where I can give to them again? No, it's probably possible because I want to.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
I would love to. I would love to help you if you need help. You know, the nature of our relationship might not allow me to because we don't get along anymore. You can't stand to be around me because of the feelings that you have about yourself, about the way things went down. Your pride won't let you heal. You know what I mean? So you can't, you don't tell me happy Thanksgiving back.
Yeah. Well, I think that just having the aspirations of improving other people's lives or making people feel better, it's like constantly planting that seed in unfertile soil. Like you're trying, my blessing, my gift will just be better use elsewhere,
Yeah.
kind of thing. But I see so many people like, I try to reach out to everyone all the time and no one reaches out to me. I'm done. Don't, and it's like, man, that's the trap. They're going to be going about their day feeling fine, but you're over here missing out on who you should really be because you've let this feeling of resentment or not getting.
Yeah.
Well, and you're just letting the gift float from you. You know what I mean? Like the gift of giving isn't even hitting you because you're not even thinking like, oh, I just gave something. You know what I mean? I feel good about that, dude. I should hone in on that more. And it's almost why I feel like it's second nature to you. Like you're very accepting and you let it go, and you receive again, you let it go. Whereas like some people are worried about when they're going to get again. Oh, well, like I don't have enough to give, but it's almost free to someone like you because like you just said, and it's so beautiful. You said, I have a lot to give.
I live in abundance.
Dude, you're right. Exactly. And that's
but it's
fucking
in the heart.
gorgeous.
It's like, it's perspective. It's like, I will get better. I will have more. We will do better. It's constantly moving forward kind of stuff. And like with the intention of that and not like what I can get out of it from, like it's not transactional for me except for like what I get for giving and myself. I feel good for doing things for others and in being involved in people's stories of progress. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he can't talk without saying Chris's name in his career right now. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like he doesn't because of the things that you've done, right? The relationship you guys have, right? Was it always transactional? Probably not. You know what I'm saying? It's probably not right now. Like it could be compared to other people's relationships. And it's about your intention. And it's weird when people, to me, expect things from other people because of what they gave them, except for like trust, right? If I give you trust me. That's about the only thing I would ever feel offended by. If I just give you the keys to my car and you blatantly in public would be like, I would never do that for you. I'd be like, right. You're kidding, right?
Right.
Oh, I'm not going to bring up anything, but that's wild.
Right.
Did I do something? Nah. That was crazy though,
Right.
Yeah, that's about it kind of stuff. But no conflict.
Yeah.
No like, well, I'm going to get my due.
Yeah.
I've had people buy off my friendship.
What do you mean by that?
Oh my God. One of my dear friends, we were kind of going separate ways for different reasons. We're the opposite sex, so ultimately, I'll just say boyfriend-girlfriend stuff involving both of us kind of drove us in to where we're just not, our relationship wasn't going to be able to be the same. And, one of our last times hanging out, she took me to Sweetwater, which is Sweetwater Sounds, one of the biggest music stores. It's 15 minutes from my tattoo studio, 20 minutes. And I didn't look at it like a goodbye gift till later, but she said, "Hey, I want you to pick out, what's the one you want? You've been playing. Play it for me." And I picked out a 12 string, an Ibanez 12 string. Sounded beautiful. Mm-hmm. She's like, "Let's go get it," and bought it for me, and went to the shop and said our goodbyes. And I see her, but we don't. That was the last day we had the relationship that we had. And that's so weird to me and I can't not look at it like that. It's like a farewell gift because of all that we have given each other. It was like one last, not even like, like goodbye sex, but I don't want to say bought off, because it wasn't the money that did it. It was like,
hey, this is the last
gift. Yeah.
This is
to show you that I care and I valued what we have, but
it's
no
gotta
more.
Stop. Instead of just writing,
stopping.
Yeah.
Right. Instead of just letting life write its own fucking story. You know what I mean? And I think humans.
Here's a 12-string guitar.
I still have it. It's beautiful. I love it.
And that is amazing. And I just I feel like humans are so fucking good at writing way worse endings to stories than life would.
For sure.
Because human beings would choose 10 times out of 10 to end it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Versus like the what if of life. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? What would happen if life was to write the story? If I was open to letting it write its own story, you know what I mean? I'm just here trying to be my best self, instead of like trying to make these decisions for life, And of course, that becomes tricky because I understand that when you go in relationships with people, they all have their own ideologies of what's right and wrong.
Boundaries,
right? And that's obviously super clear. Like, you should respect boundaries, mm-hmm. right? Because we're all loving and just want to respect one another. But I do want to say that I think boundaries are definitively the one thing that will get something to write a bad ending to a story versus just being open. You know what I mean? Because it's always my boundaries that end me and where I'm at, right? It's not like always everyone else's shit. You know what I mean? It is sometimes, but I feel like when I set up all these rules for myself, like I am this or I am not this, or like I'm okay with this or I'm not okay with this, that's usually what ends me up in being where I'm at. And I've realized in life that I'm not always super stoked about where I end up, right? Versus like I could have just been open. Mm-hmm. I could have been more receptive. I could have been more understanding, or I could have like tried to see from someone else's perspective a little bit more. You know what I mean? And again, not to say that certain people's boundaries aren't important to them, or like the peak, like, dude, I just don't cross this line. You know what I mean? That's necessary. I think everyone has those things, but I just feel like you're good at being open. You're good at being receptive. You're good at like just reading where other people are at. You know what I mean? Maybe not even understanding, because it's probably hard to just understand everyone's story and stuff.
Oh yeah.
But just like, I don't need to understand it. I just see that you're a person and you're going through it. You're just doing the same thing I'm doing. Mm-hmm. It's super hard for people to be locked into that all the time. You know what I mean? I know I'm not, so I don't know.
No, I get it. It's a drag too, a lot for me. Here's one of my, so like, are there people that just constantly have problems with everything?
Oh yeah.
Like, they're just, ain't nothing right at home, ain't nothing right at their job, ain't nothing right since they were 4. You know what I mean? And they just live in that world of I'm helpless, I'm sad, and that eats me up. And I'm not saying I've told people you have to leave my studio, but I've told people they're not allowed to talk about their, not to be disrespectful, but their problems like that too, because it how do you say it? I can't help you at that point, which means it's really hard for me to be around you because I'm such a helper. And if I can't help you, I'm all of a sudden uncomfortable, which is wild. Doesn't happen very much. But especially when I'm like in and around tattoos, normally I can tell people something that'll like make it better. Yeah. Like, man, I like that shirt. Cool. My brother got it for me. He died last week.
Like, fuck.
You know what I mean?
Fuck.
Well, I think you should, not anything to do with your brother, but you should go to. Like, out. I can't do that.
Not to do with your brother.
Sometimes it's really hard for me to understand that perspective. Because really, I use the term just flip the switch all the time. Like, it's just how you think about it. You know, for me, it's like that simple. You just have to reprogram yourself to have this new habit versus an old one. But man, it seems like people are dug in deep sometimes.
It takes a lot of emotional maturity to govern oneself so advanced. It's just
right know. And I agree with that because like I haven't said this on the show yet, but I'm bipolar, like diagnosed and shit. So but I'm unmedicated for certain reasons because I feel like medications fuck with me. Like, dude, I'll sleep fucking 13 hours a day on some medications. Other medications will keep me up, like, and I can only sleep 2. So it's super tricky finding that. But I've gone through therapy and finding some tools to managing when I can feel like I can't flip that switch, when it's just at a peak or it's like super low. But one thing that I don't think people do enough, whether you're fucking diagnosed with something or you're not or whatever, it's that you don't allow yourself the space to experience what you're experiencing. You need to be past it, or you need to have not ever felt it at all. You can't be on the other end of that. You need to be in the middle of it, accept it, take it, and let it go.
Accountable, and then you do you base your actions on how accountable you're going to hold yourself. Or want to, like, you know, it's easy to react.
Oh yeah, say it again.
It is so easy to react. That's easy. That's one of the easiest things you can do is just blow your top. You know, it's as easy as laughter, but it's damning different than laughter. You know, but it's just as natural. But it takes emotional maturity and like being accountable for your actions. It's not okay to flip a desk. It's not okay to go hit that guy because he offended you or made you mad or you didn't like his shirt. Whatever your trigger was, it's not, you gotta weigh it, and a lot of people don't. And I'll say now, a lot of people aren't as, you know, I'll say you said you're bipolar, right? So I think a lot of people different, you know, I'm not saying culturally it's cool, but it's accepted that because of, you know, that it is like, it's okay for you to have, how do you say it, less control of your,
like a fit.
Yeah.
Every now and then kind of thing. Like, well, he's just got this thing.
Yes.
You know, like it's just, well, and I so agree with that because it's not, I think when people hear like, oh, I'm bipolar or I'm depressed or whatever it is, that it's almost like, oh, because a doctor put it on you, like it's okay and you don't have to manage it or you don't have to work with it at all. But dude, there are so many things about people that haven't been given a fucking name.
Yeah.
That if they would, it'd become a label. You know what I mean? Like, dude, if you were able to like create a bunch of different subtypes of anger issues, everyone and their mom, I'm sure, would have a fucking anger issue.
Yeah. Right?
Because it's now that it's been labeled and given a name like bipolar disorder.
Or PMS.
Exactly. Whatever it's now just like, well, I don't have that, so I don't understand it. I'm not going to try to understand it. That's that person's thing.
And also I have it, so look out. Yeah. Right? It's both. It's that, and that's what I'm saying. It's people lessen their self-governing because they're okay, and they're like, I have this. It's not, but you still got to pay your bills. You still better treat people right. You still better give love, accept love, all that kind of stuff, regardless of, how easy or hard it is to get, it's easy to get sad, right? I deal with depression like nuts. You'd never know. You know why? Because the way I don't get depressed is like I said, I live by practice, by giving and showing love all the time. And that keeps it pretty,
at bay, right?
Yeah.
And manageable.
Yes. Yeah. And, but my actions are also the opposite of that. So that's how I combat it. Or it's probably not the only way, I smoke a lot of weed.